Ladies and gentlemen, today I am honored to share with you the incredible story of two men whose vision and perseverance changed the course of history. I am talking about Wilbur and Orville Wright, the brothers who achieved the first powered flight in history. Wilbur and Orville Wright were born in the late 19th century in a small town in Ohio, where their lives would eventually take a course that would forever alter the world. Though their story would come to symbolize innovation and achievement, their early years were quite ordinary, rooted in a family that encouraged intellectual curiosity. Their father, Milton Wright, a bishop in the Church of the United Brethren in Christ, was a firm believer in the value of education, fostering a love of learning in both Wilbur and Orville. He also maintained a progressive outlook, embracing technology and ideas that were ahead of their time, which undoubtedly influenced his sons. The brothers had a comfortable childhood, though their lives were not without challenges. Wilbur, the older of the two, was particularly drawn to books and learning from a young age. He was known for his intellectual curiosity, reading everything he could get his hands on, from literature to scientific works. Orville, on the other hand, demonstrated a more hands-on, mechanical inclination, often tinkering with machines and building small gadgets. Their interests were already diverging early on, setting the stage for their future partnership in aviation. However, the two were always close, and their shared interests would come to define the course of their adult lives. The early years of their education were marked by the loss of their mother, Susan, who passed away when Wilbur was just 14. This was a pivotal moment in the lives of both brothers, and Wilbur in particular struggled with the emotional weight of the loss. It was during this difficult period that he found solace in his intellectual pursuits. While Orville had already dropped out of high school to pursue his own ventures, Wilbur completed his education at home. Even after their formal schooling ended, the brothers remained keenly interested in education, constantly reading and learning about various subjects, from mechanics to aerodynamics. In their early adulthood, neither Wilbur nor Orville attended college, yet they remained lifelong learners. Instead of formal schooling, the two brothers turned to self-teaching, reading and experimenting on their own. Self-teaching, they showed a remarkable ability to absorb knowledge and translate it into practical applications. This drive to learn and explore led them to establish a bicycle sales and repair shop in Dayton, Ohio. This venture was a success and helped fund their later work in aviation. The mechanics of bicycles, with their intricate designs and need for precision, proved to be excellent training for the brothers, giving them the skills they would later apply to building aircraft. Their fascination with flight came a bit later, ignited by the works of others in the field, including the famous pioneers of aerodynamics. The idea of human flight had intrigued thinkers for centuries, but it was during their time in Dayton that the Wright brothers began to take serious steps toward making that dream a reality. They began experimenting with gliders, a decision that would forever change their lives. Their early work was marked by a rigorous and methodical approach, with a clear understanding of the challenges ahead. The two brothers understood that achieving flight wasn't just about creating a machine that could lift off the ground, but also about mastering the science of controlling it once it was airborne. Though they began with no formal background in aviation, the Wright brothers' ability to combine their mechanical expertise with an unyielding curiosity about the possibilities of flight formed the foundation of their extraordinary achievements. The Wright brothers' passion for flight didn't come overnight. It was a culmination of years of curiosity, observation, and the desire to push the boundaries of what was considered possible. Their fascination with flight began in childhood, when they were introduced to the idea of powered flight by various inventors and scientists who were working on the concept of human flight. However, it was not until later, as young men, that they became seriously committed to making that dream a reality. Their initial interest in flight can be traced back to a toy their father gave them when they were children, a small, rubber band-powered helicopter. This simple toy, which could spin and lift off the ground when wound up, captured the imagination of the two brothers. They were fascinated by the mechanics of flight, even though they were still too young to understand the science behind it. It sparked in them an enduring curiosity about how flight could be achieved and what forces were at play in the air. As they grew older, the brothers' interest in flight evolved into a deeper obsession. While they were running their bicycle sales and repair business, they began to devote more and more of their free time to studying flight. The mechanics involved in bicycles were not entirely different from the principles needed for flight. Both required precise control, balance, and the ability to adapt and improve upon existing designs. The brothers' engineering minds, honed from years of building bicycles and other mechanical devices, proved invaluable as they started applying their skills to aviation. In the late 19th century, the concept of human flight was still very much a dream, and many inventors, from hot air balloonists to aeronautical engineers, had failed to produce any kind of viable flying machine. However, the Wright brothers were undeterred. They did not see the limitations that others did. Instead, they saw a challenge, a puzzle to be solved. They were determined to succeed where so many others had failed. They began reading everything they could about the works of pioneering aviators, scientists, and engineers, both past and contemporary. They delved into the studies of flight control, aerodynamics, and the theory of lift, relying heavily on the works of people like Octave Chanute, a French-born engineer whose insights into glider flight greatly influenced their thinking. Rather than blindly following the theories of others, the Wright brothers took a more hands-on approach. They focused on gathering practical, empirical data through experimentation. They believed that understanding flight would require not just theoretical knowledge, but also trial and error. As a result, they designed and built their own gliders and conducted a series of test flights in Kitty Hawk, North Carolina, a location chosen for its consistent winds and remote setting, which provided both privacy and favorable conditions for experimentation. During these early years, they struggled to master the art of flight. Their gliders were often unsuccessful, and they faced numerous setbacks from equipment failures to unpredictable weather. But what set the Wright brothers apart was their refusal to give up. While many others would have considered their failures as reasons to abandon their efforts, Wilbur and Orville saw them as valuable lessons, learning from each setback to refine their designs. They realized that flight wasn't just about lifting off the ground. It was about control, how to maneuver the aircraft once it was airborne. This insight became a driving force in their work. Their breakthrough came when they realized that controlling an aircraft required more than just stabilizing it during flight. They needed to find a way to control the aircraft in 3 dimensions: pitch, yaw, and roll. They invented a system of movable control surfaces, allowing them to manipulate the aircraft's movements and keep it stable during flight. This discovery was revolutionary, as no other flying machine of the time had achieved this level of control. Through their persistence, creativity, and willingness to learn from failure, the Wright brothers ultimately succeeded in their mission. Their passion for flight was not just about achieving a single moment of glory, but about mastering the science of flight and pushing the boundaries of human achievement. This relentless drive would eventually lead to their historic success on December 17, 1903, when they made the world's first controlled, powered flight. The journey of the Wright brothers, from mere dreamers to pioneers of flight, was deeply rooted in their innovative thinking and unparalleled engineering skills. What set Wilbur and Orville apart from others who had tried to achieve powered flight was not just their mechanical expertise, but their ability to approach the problem in an entirely new way. While many inventors before them had focused on the machine itself, the Wright brothers understood that true flight required a deeper, more systematic understanding of aerodynamics and control. Their engineering ingenuity was the key to their success. In the early years of their experimentation, the Wright brothers didn't rely on fancy equipment or advanced tools. Instead, they made use of the resources they had at hand. The brothers were self-taught engineers having no formal training in aviation, yet they brought a unique approach to their work, one based on trial and error, observation, and a commitment to understanding the fundamental principles of flight. This mindset drove them to develop innovative solutions that others had not yet considered. One of the most significant challenges they faced was achieving control in flight. While various inventors had succeeded in creating flying machines, many of these machines lacked the ability to control their movement once airborne. As a result, these early flights were often short, unstable, and dangerous. Wilbur and Orville understood that a successful flying machine had to be able to maneuver in the air, not simply lift off and coast. To solve this problem, they took a step back and studied the aerodynamics of flight in a way that no one else had. They recognized that control in flight came from the ability to manipulate the forces acting on the aircraft, particularly the wings. At the time, many believed that stability in flight was achieved through a fixed wing design, but the Wright brothers believed that dynamic control was essential. This led to their groundbreaking discovery of wing warping, an innovative method of controlling the aircraft by twisting the wings to alter their shape and control the aircraft's roll. This idea was a direct response to their understanding of how birds controlled their flight by shifting their wings in different directions. The system of wing warping was a game changer, allowing the brothers to control the aircraft's roll and make smooth, coordinated turns. This discovery was only part of their broader approach to engineering. The Wright brothers didn't just focus on the wings, they also paid close attention to other aspects of their aircraft. They designed their own propellers, recognizing that the standard screw propeller of the time wasn't efficient enough to provide the thrust needed for sustained flight. Drawing on their engineering knowledge, they applied mathematical principles to determine the best shape and angle for the propellers. Their work on propeller design was groundbreaking, laying the foundation for the development of more efficient engines in the years to come. But the Wright brothers' most remarkable engineering achievement was their ability to build an engine powerful enough to support flight. At the time, aircraft engines were typically too heavy or underpowered to lift a plane off the ground. The Wright brothers knew they needed a lightweight, reliable engine to propel their aircraft. In response, they designed and built their own four-cylinder engine. For that, they first designed. Working out of their bicycle shop in Dayton, they constructed the engine from scratch using the materials available to them. It was a triumph of engineering, an engine that was both powerful and light enough to enable controlled flight. This engine, coupled with their carefully designed wings and control system, was the key to their success. In addition to their innovations in design and engineering, the Wright brothers also pioneered new methods of testing their ideas. They built a wind tunnel in their bicycle shop, one of the first of its kind. This wind tunnel allowed them to test different wing shapes and gather critical data on the aerodynamics of flight. Their attention to detail and commitment to understanding the scientific principles of flight were essential to their success. They didn't just guess at what might work, they tested their ideas in a controlled environment, refining their designs based on real-world data. The Wright brothers' engineering brilliance was ultimately what made their success possible. They combined theoretical knowledge with practical, hands-on experimentation, creating a machine that could not only lift off the ground, but stay in the air and be controlled in flight. Their ability to think critically, solve complex problems, and innovate in ways others had not considered was what set them apart. The lessons they learned during their years of experimentation in Kitty Hawk would forever shape the future of aviation, and their engineering achievements would lay the groundwork for the modern aviation industry. The morning of December 17th, 1903, was a momentous day in the history of human achievement, a day that would mark the dawn of the modern era of aviation. The Wright brothers, Wilbur and Orville, had spent years working tirelessly on their dream of achieving powered flight. After countless experiments, refinements, and setbacks, they were finally ready to test their latest invention, the Wright Flyer. The location for this groundbreaking attempt was Kitty Hawk, North Carolina, a remote, wind-swept stretch of land that had become their testing ground due to its strong, consistent winds, which were ideal for their flying experiments. The day began with a palpable sense of anticipation. The brothers had already achieved success with gliders that could glide through the air, but this was different. This was not just a glider, it was a machine powered by an engine they had designed and built themselves. They had successfully made the leap from mere gliding to attempting controlled, sustained flight. The pressure was immense. After all, this was the culmination of years of work, and they knew the world would be watching. The aircraft was not a large, sleek, modern plane as we might imagine today, but rather a fragile-looking craft built with wooden wings, fabric, and wire. Despite its unassuming appearance, the Wright Flyer represented the result of meticulous engineering and testing. It was powered by a 12-horsepower engine and had a wingspan of just 12.3 meters, 40 feet, with a forward elevator, a rudder, and a system of wing warping for control. This combination of design elements, though rudimentary by today's standards, was enough to achieve controlled flight, a feat no one had managed before. The moment of flight was a spectacle that would forever change the world. Orville, the younger of the two brothers, was the first to climb into the cockpit. At precisely 10:35 a.m., with the wind helping to lift the flyer into the air, Orville took control of the aircraft. The first flight lasted just 12 seconds and covered a distance of 120 feet. But in those few moments, the brothers achieved something that had once seemed impossible. A human had flown a powered aircraft, controlled and sustained by its engine. The world had never witnessed such a feat before. After this initial flight, Wilbur took his turn at the controls. He piloted the second flight of the day, which lasted 12 seconds as well, but covered a distance of 175 feet. Following this, the brothers made 2 additional flights that day, each longer and more stable than the previous one. The fourth and final flight of the day, with Wilbur at the controls again, lasted 59 seconds and covered a distance of 852 feet. This was the longest and most successful flight of the day, proving that controlled, powered flight was indeed possible, and that the Wright brothers had accomplished what no one else had been able to do before. Despite the significance of the event, the first flights were not immediately recognized by the wider world. The Wright brothers had kept their experiments largely private, and the media was not yet fully aware of the scope of their achievement. But for the brothers themselves, the flights confirmed the viability of their theories and designs. They had created a machine that could lift off the ground, stay aloft, and be controlled. The realization that human flight was now within reach was something far beyond just a technical achievement. It was a victory of perseverance, creativity, and vision. After their success, the brothers continued to refine their designs, making numerous improvements to their aircraft. However, it wasn't until later, when they began to share their accomplishments with the public, that the true significance of their work began to be recognized. In the years that followed, the Wright brothers would continue to push the boundaries of aviation, ultimately leading to the development of more advanced aircraft and the birth of the aviation industry as we know it today. But on that day, in December of 1903, the Wright brothers achieved something far greater than just the world's first powered flight. They demonstrated that human ingenuity, combined with persistence and a relentless pursuit of a dream, could break through the seemingly impossible. They laid the groundwork for a new era in which the skies were no longer a distant, unreachable frontier, but a realm open to exploration and progress. The path to the Wright brothers' success was far from easy. Behind the historic achievement of the first powered flight on December 17, 1903, lay years of intense struggle, failure, and perseverance. Wilbur and Orville Wright encountered numerous obstacles, both physical and emotional, that could have easily led them to abandon their dream of flight. Yet it was their unyielding determination, creativity, and ability to learn from failure that ultimately led to their triumph. One of the earliest and most significant struggles the Wright brothers faced was the skepticism and doubts from the broader public and scientific community. At the time, many experts and engineers in the field of aerodynamics believed that human flight was simply not possible. These voices of doubt were compounded by the fact that the Wright brothers were not formal scientists or engineers. They were self-taught mechanics who, despite their remarkable knowledge and skills, were not viewed as credible figures in the world of aviation. Many dismissed their ideas and theories as fanciful and unrealistic. In addition to the skepticism from others, the brothers also encountered technical hurdles that required immense innovation to overcome. Early on, they realized that achieving controlled flight was not just about making an aircraft that could fly. It was about mastering the ability to control the aircraft once it was in the air. Previous inventors had succeeded in building gliders, but they were often unstable and uncontrollable. Wilbur and Orville understood that the key to sustained flight was not just lift, but control. This insight led them to experiment with wing warping to control the roll of the aircraft, a design innovation that others had not considered. Despite their innovative thinking, they faced a number of setbacks in their testing. One of the most notable was the failure of their first powered aircraft. In 1901, the brothers had built a glider with hopes of testing it as a stepping stone toward a powered machine. Unfortunately, their glider failed to meet expectations, and their early flights in Kitty Hawk were disappointing. In fact, the first gliders they tested were often unstable and difficult to control, crashing repeatedly and setting back their work. The brothers were not deterred, though. Instead of viewing these failures as signs to give up, they saw them as valuable learning. Each crash taught them more about how to refine their design, and they used this knowledge to make improvements. One of their most significant trials came in 1903 when they built the Wright Flyer. The brothers faced numerous challenges in crafting an engine light enough to power the aircraft. They designed and built their own engine from scratch, an endeavor that was fraught with difficulties. Engine designs at the time were too heavy and lacked the power needed for sustained flight. The Wright brothers had to devise a completely new engine that was both light and powerful enough to lift their machine into the air. After several months of hard work, the brothers successfully created a 12-horsepower engine that powered their aircraft. But the process was anything but smooth. They encountered setbacks in engine construction, and many of their early attempts failed. In addition to technical difficulties, the brothers also had to overcome financial challenges. While their bicycle business provided some income, funding for their aviation experiments was always a struggle. They relied heavily on their own resources, often using profits from their bicycle shop to finance their work on the flying machine. In fact, their success was largely due to their frugality and resourcefulness. They built much of their equipment themselves, from the wind tunnel used to test their designs to the engine and propellers they crafted. Despite having limited financial support, the brothers were able to push forward with their experiments, driven by their passion for flight. Another challenge was the physical toll their work took on them. Their efforts often left them exhausted, and the harsh conditions in Kitty Hawk made their testing difficult. They worked in cold, windy conditions, often with little to no help. They also had to deal with the constant frustration of failures, which took an emotional toll on them. But despite these hardships, they never lost sight of their goal. The brothers learned to see failure not as an obstacle, but as a necessary step in the process. Each failure led them to reevaluate their designs, refine their techniques, and move closer to their ultimate goal of controlled, powered flight. The moment of success came on December 17th, 1903, when Orville piloted the first successful powered flight of the Wright Flyer. This was a triumph not only for the brothers, but for all of human ingenuity. They had overcome years of adversity, from public skepticism to technical failures, and had finally achieved what many thought was impossible. Their perseverance and ability to innovate had brought them to the pinnacle of aviation. However, their struggles didn't end there. After their success in 1903, the Wright brothers faced the challenge of proving their achievement to the world. Despite their groundbreaking accomplishment, many still doubted the authenticity of their claims. The brothers were met with resistance from other aviators and inventors who had their own theories and designs for flight. They had to fight for recognition, not just for their success, but for the value of their inventions. Over the next few years, they continued to refine their designs, improve their aircraft, and prove that their invention was not a fluke. Their triumph, however, eventually led to greater recognition, and by the time the Wright brothers' Flyer 3 was fully developed in 1905, their work was becoming known across the globe. The world, and particularly the aviation community, began to acknowledge their achievement, and the brothers went on to become icons in the field of flight. The Wright brothers' struggles were not just physical or technical. They were emotional, financial, and intellectual. Yet, through all of their difficulties, they remained steadfast, driven by a shared vision and an unbreakable bond. Their story is a testament to the power of persistence, innovation, and the belief that even the greatest challenges can be overcome with ingenuity and resolve. The legacy of the Wright brothers extends far beyond their groundbreaking achievement on December 17, 1903. What began as an experiment to make human flight possible has since transformed the world in ways Wilbur and Orville could never have fully anticipated. Their work set the stage for the development of modern aviation, and their contributions continue to shape the fields of engineering, technology, and transportation today. Their lasting fame is a direct result of not only their technical achievements, but also their unrelenting drive and vision. In the years following their first successful flight, the Wright brothers worked tirelessly to improve their designs and to demonstrate the potential of their aircraft. They didn't just stop at achieving powered flight. They went on to develop the first fully practical airplane, the Wright Flyer 3, which could fly for extended distances and with greater control. This was a significant step forward in aviation, as it demonstrated that their innovations were not one-off successes, but the beginning of a new era in flight. The Flyer 3's success led to the brothers becoming increasingly recognized as the pioneers of powered aviation by 1908. They had begun to display their aircraft to the public, taking it to Europe and the United States, where they captivated audiences and demonstrated the true capabilities of their invention. The recognition of their achievement, however, wasn't immediate. Initially, many in the scientific and aviation communities were skeptical of the Wright brothers. Though they had succeeded in achieving powered flight, there were disputes over the details, and their claims were not universally accepted. The brothers had to fight for acknowledgement in the face of competing inventors and skeptics. But through a series of public demonstrations and continued advancements in aviation, their reputation gradually solidified. Their refusal to patent their designs in full secrecy and their willingness to demonstrate their aircraft were critical in gaining wider acceptance. Their consistent, unwavering commitment to proving the validity of their work earned them the respect they ultimately received. One of the most significant milestones in the Wright brothers' lasting fame came when they became involved in the military. The potential for airplanes in warfare was quickly realized, and by 1909, they had successfully sold a military aircraft to the United States Army Signal Corps. This marked the beginning of the widespread application of aviation in military operations, a use that would grow exponentially in the years to come. In World War I, airplanes would prove to be an invaluable asset in reconnaissance, air combat, and bombing, demonstrating the incredible impact the Wright brothers' invention had on global warfare. Beyond military applications, the Wright brothers' invention fundamentally changed the way people traveled and connected with one another. The development of powered flight led to the creation of the commercial aviation industry, which would revolutionize transportation across the globe. The first transcontinental flights, the first commercial airlines, and the eventual creation of air travel as a common means of transportation can all trace their roots back to the innovations made by Wilbur and Orville. The ability to travel vast distances in a matter of hours instead of days or weeks forever altered commerce, tourism, and global connectivity. The rapid development of air travel and the international reach it created would not have been possible without the Wright brothers' invention. The brothers' legacy also extends to the field of engineering. Their meticulous approach to design, their use of scientific principles in aerodynamics, and their breakthrough in flight control are all foundational to modern aircraft design. Their understanding of how to make an aircraft stable and controllable in the air through systems like wing warping and the development of functional propellers continues to influence aircraft design today. Modern engineers and aviation experts continue to study the Wright brothers' original models and methods as part of their work to innovate further in the field of aviation. In recognition of their extraordinary achievements, Wilbur and Orville Wright received numerous honors and awards. They were celebrated across the world, with many countries acknowledging their contributions to human progress. Monuments, museums, and institutions have been dedicated to preserving their memory. The Wright brothers' impact is immortalized in the National Air and Space Museum, the Wright Brothers National Memorial, and other landmarks that honor their place in history. Their names are synonymous with flight, and they are frequently referenced in discussions of human innovation and perseverance. Perhaps one of the most enduring aspects of the Wright brothers' legacy is their embodiment of the power of human ingenuity and persistence. They proved that the seemingly impossible could be achieved through hard work, vision, and a refusal to accept failure. Their story inspires countless engineers, inventors, and dreamers around the world to challenge the limits of what is possible and to keep pushing forward despite obstacles. Even today, the Wright brothers' contribution to human flight is celebrated every year on December 17. The anniversary of their first successful flight. Around the world, aviation enthusiasts, engineers, and the general public gather to remember the pivotal moment when humanity first took to the skies. Their legacy is not just one of technical achievement, but of a spirit of innovation and exploration that continues to drive progress in aviation and beyond. In conclusion, the Wright brothers' fame and legacy are deeply intertwined with the profound impact their invention has had on society. From the skies to the fields of engineering, their work reshaped the world. They will always be remembered as the men who proved that flight, once thought impossible, could indeed become a reality, and that reality has forever transformed the way we live, travel, and connect with one another. Wilbur and Orville Wright's story is one of vision, dedication, and the relentless pursuit of a dream. Their achievement proves that with hard work and determination, even the most impossible goals can become a reality. The sky was no longer the limit. Thanks to the Wright brothers, the world was about to get a whole lot smaller. Thank you.